Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee with Jim and James. If I didn't start off the episode by saying, let's get ready to rumble, because we have from the WEE, or is it the WWE, and the MMA. No, not really. But look at these guys. Being serious, James. Seriously, look at these. Look at MG down there.
I think Jason rolled his sleeves up twice since we've been on this call. I mean, they just keep sneaking up.
Yeah, you can't hide those guns for nothing.
Nice.
No.
And MG's hair, we talked about MG's hair for an hour and a half on the pre-show for 2 days because we missed out recording this yesterday due to, my son playing Fortnite, I'm pretty sure.
It was
blessed as always to be here with two awesome guests.
Absolutely.
Aren't we? Jason Crowe, who, for those that don't remember, okay, and Jimmy, am I wrong on this? Was Jason Crowe our first guest ever?
I think he was numero uno, number one. Yep.
No one can ever say that.
Yep.
About them.
It's an honor and a privilege.
And then MG was our backup, wasn't
he? He was plan B. But luckily Jason showed up. So then we got MG on like 6 years later. No, it felt like 6 years later. I think he was probably episode 42 or something. And if I nailed that, pure happenstance.
That's
MG,
awesome.
Welcome back also.
And again, just like last time, honor and privilege to be talking with you guys. I'm looking forward to our topics today.
Hey, I have to. Let me just jump in a second, James, real quick. I'm gonna hand it over to you. But we had a lot of fun in the pre-show, and it reminded me. You look at the picture of us right here. You're thinking, okay, we're gonna talk about 811. We're gonna talk about OGA equipment and all that. What did we just do for literally the last 40 minutes? We just caught up.
I don't even know. Like we can't tell people half of what we talk about, but.
As friends, and we just caught up, and that's part of the industry. I mean, every time Jason calls me or I call him, it's not about business at first. It's how you doing? Are you safe? How's life?
Family. Yeah.
Family. And then one of us, we both always say at the very end, love you, brother. And we mean it. And we're not embarrassed to say it. We'll say it in public or whatever. And it just made me think that, and MG and I have a very special relationship. We'll go into that later. But anyways, I'm kidding. But
it's growing and blossoming more and more every day.
It is. But think about it, guys. That's how our industry works, is that we have friends out there and we have friends that we can rely on. And whether it's personally or professionally, that's the key to a lot of these things. And that's kind of our segue into today's topic, I would say, for me. So, James, I'm going to pass it back over to you, my brother.
Yeah, I hope I can do it justice because I swear we've tried to record this 6 times, so I'm just thinking about all the things that I said the last 6 times. But really today, to sum it up in a nutshell, is about motivation. I would sum it up as. And so all 4 of us, no matter the platform, no matter what, and I'm going to use us as examples. I'm not making us holier than thou, I swear. But we have influence in this world, and all of us have chosen kind of this path of motivation, through acts, through servant leadership, you name it, right? But whatever it is, we're out there, we're very public in bringing people along and doing everything we can to lift each other up along the way. And it's nothing foreign to our industry, we're not doing anything odd, I would say, but I wanted to kind of bring it into a discussion with us because for some people, I've had a lot of discussions over the years in leadership and leading people, no matter where I was at, right? But about, you just have this God-given talent, to be positive and motivate people and things like that. And I guess what I want to do is kind of pull the curtain back a little bit and help people to understand that it is not a God-given talent for me, okay? I love people. All right. It's that part's easier, but let me pull how many books currently that are on my desk, teaching me how to, add all these things up, in all the different ways that you can, to try to make a difference. Right. So it wasn't something that I just wake up in the morning built for. Right. There's days that I wake up that I'm like, man, it's going to be hard to record today.
Yep.
How do I get my mind right? And I struggle with the same things, whether it's personal life or work stuff or anxiety and depression and things like that, it makes those times harder to put that face on and go to work. But I guess asking the group, and each one of you have your own way and it manifests that way. How do you make that choice every day, I guess, and why, right? Like we could all very easily wake up every day, go sit down at a desk, punch in, old school, punch in, sit down at a desk and do our 8 hours and go home.
Yep.
What makes you do the 2 before, the 2 after, to call the guy, to bring him along, to help the person that you're not getting paid for, to be that servant leader? What drives you? How do you find it, and why? How's that? Did I do it justice?
Wow. What? Yeah. If I may, I'd like to go first on this one. I was thinking about our topics and trying to get my mind in the right space to really tackle this. And just like anything else in our lives, our relationships, our friendships, all this stuff, there's a trial that happens. This relationship didn't work, but I learned from that relationship that the next relationship will work. And I don't know if anybody remembers their first ever job, but my first ever job lasted 2 weeks, and it's because I'm a terrible employee. And it's easy for me to say that now because I'm talking about 16-year-old me, not 43-year-old me. 16-year-old me, when I was getting told that I was scooping ice cream incorrectly, really couldn't handle that. I was being told by like a 40-year-old man that I couldn't do my job. And it was ice cream scooping, my first job ever. And I was like, forget this. Mom, they're mean to me. I'm out of here. Yeah. Like, I don't need this $5 or whatever I was making. So I eventually just kept going from job to job to get money. And that was it. And money takes care of bills. You try to have a life and you keep going. And then all of a sudden you fall into a job that I've told you guys this before. If someone 10 years ago said, hey, M.G., you're going to get a job where you talk about digging all the time. Not in my top 10 dream jobs, just probably wasn't going to happen. But you go into it and you take all the negatives that you've learned from all these previous jobs and opportunities that you had, and you go, you know what? I'm not scooping ice cream. You know what? I don't have someone over my shoulder who's telling me how to do something so little. And by the way, here's what you are doing. You're making an impact on the community. You're saving lives. You're educating those who are providing the services to your home. You're like, there's an immediate reward every single time I get the opportunity to speak in front of somebody. And that is like the beginning of it. It's just waking up and go, well, I'm not scooping ice cream. I know it's going to sound silly, but every morning when I wake up, I'm like, I grew up and I've gotten to this point to where I go to work knowing that I have this influence, I have this impact. I'm not going to regress from this obligation, because if I'm not doing it, somebody else will. Somebody else needs to. So why not just me? Why not I just go do my job as best as I can? And I have other ideas and points, but that's where the beginning of it all is. I look at my past and figure out, where did I come from? And then where did this passion come from to go forward? And that's kind of where I am right now.
That remember where you started kind of mindset, right?
Yeah.
Don't forget why you started, and shout out to the ice cream scoopers.
Yeah.
Doing it right.
MG, to reiterate what you said, I think we all go through things in our lives, and as you mentioned, trials, and I think maybe a pre-show thing. Things happen, as I got to the industry 20 some years ago, I worked for a large company and was able to climb the corporate ladder very quickly. Put forth a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, but my purpose in that was self-fulfilling. That was my goal. I wanted to make the money to pay the bills, to provide for the family, and all those things.
Yep.
And then things happen in our lives where we realize that it's just not all about what we want, and there's a greater sense of fulfillment in being able to help others. At least that's with me. And whether it's battling our own internal demons, or a major health scare, or the loss of a loved one, or something that just caused us to pivot in our mindset. And I think, James, you said something earlier. MG, you said something. It's all about your mindset. For me, it was finding that greater sense of purpose. And what I do, how I make my money, is I sell equipment, right? I sell equipment to locate lines and, pipeline integrity and inspection. That's how I pay my bills. But how am I ultimately fulfilled as a person? It's helping people to be safe. It's helping people to be better. It's helping people to work through whatever it is they're working through. Be brave. Exactly. Take those chances. Because at the end of the day, I pay my bills selling equipment. But what really truly fills my bucket, what truly makes my heart happy, is seeing buddies like MG succeed and James and all that stuff. It doesn't pay the bills, but that's what truly makes me happy. And I think to an extent, all of us have made that realization within ourselves.
Yep. And James, let me jump into, and I'll answer it very quickly. It's almost selfishly, but I'll say it's the thank yous. And not that I'm looking for praise, but when somebody reaches out to me and they need help with something, and I say, I know a guy, hold on, and I connect them up or whatever the case is, and they say, hey, thanks, that really helps me. It's that thank you that drives me every day. And we all know, the audience doesn't know, but this morning I was doing 14 different things, and we came on the screen, just, still bounced off the wall. And I just had to decompress, get into the groove with you guys, and you guys helped me because you recognized it and said, how can we help you? What can you do differently? And
Jim said, leave me alone. And so we told him to go on mute and take a walk, and we continued to talk about him. Yeah.
And I like to talk about it, make fun of me.
Right. I mean, it's that observation, though. I mean, and having your eyes wide open, right? That helps you. I don't know if y'all have ever watched. Oh, I'm sorry, Jason.
No, I was just saying there's two, good points. I don't want us to necessarily gloss over, but one, having empathy.
Yep.
Truly being empathetic and recognizing, hey, brother Jim's struggling right now. Let's take a time out and address it. And then two, one of the things I struggle with is showing yourself grace to allow yourself to go take that 2-minute walk. It's okay to shut off for a minute.
I've learned more about grace this year than anything. And you know what's wild? And I'll tell you why. So I recently took over, or am over HR as well. So I poured through the handbook this year to really understand it. Are we saying the right things? Are we doing the right thing? And one of our core values that we say, as an employee of Energy WorldNet, is having grace.
Yeah.
And seeing that in our own, employee handbook, and how employee handbooks are. I mean, right. Sorry, HR friends, but you're like, okay, where do I sign? Really, and where's my vacation stuff? Where's the 401k? Okay, we're good. That's really the kind of the depth that we ever look at that thing. And when I started looking at it, every time there was an incident where, we weren't giving grace to our own people, across the department, within the department, wherever it was. When we used that as a chance to bring it up, it was almost like, do y'all know this is in our handbook? Like, how wild is that? Are you really giving people grace? And you'd stop and you go, wow, maybe I'm not. And like you said, maybe I'm not giving myself grace, which is the hardest thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Hardest. It's so hard.
I don't know, but do you guys find that easy, where it's easier to give others grace?
No doubt.
But it's much harder to give yourself that same grace?
I'm getting better. I think because I make a lot more mistakes now that I'm older. So I have to give myself grace,
Well, maybe it's just recognizing it,
That's right there, recognizing it in yourself, because sometimes it's easier to see in somebody else. And, did you guys ever go through the stress things where you're in a classroom and they say, okay, when you're dealing with stress, breathe 10 times in, out, do this stuff and all that. And it makes sense then, because you want to know why? You're not under stress. Then when you get under stress, do you remember that? It's out the window. Right. Until somebody says to you, take a deep breath, go for a walk, come back in 5 minutes. And, sometimes you just need that interaction pointed inward towards you.
So that's a good point. Now, I'm going to go back to kind of, MG said, he wakes up and says, you don't have to scoop ice cream, which is the weirdest thing I've heard all day. But I get it now. It makes total sense. I kind of have I actually used it this morning in one of our Slack channels. We were just talking about, big thinking and, the whole goldfish idea, keeping a goldfish in a small bowl, it'll stay small, right? I mean, So the big fish idea. So I was talking about the Tim Burton movie, Big Fish. Anyone ever watched that movie? If not, watch it, okay, after this, because it is filled with metaphors. It's amazing. But one of the things in there is there's, no spoilers here, there's a witch in it, and she has one bad eye or glass eye that she keeps covered up. When she flips it up, if you look into it, you see how you are going to die, okay, in your lifetime. You already see it, whether it's 3 minutes from now or when you're 67, next to your wife. It doesn't matter, right? And so, but then when you think about that, it's just a thing that happens in the movie. Well, then some of the people get so preoccupied with that thought that that's how they live their life. It's just, they know how they're going to go, right? So imagine that, right? You could see that. Any of us who have medical issues or anything like that, where does your head go immediately? Yeah. You spend the next month, freaking out about it, and then you get to right? Imagine if you knew how you were going to go, how that could impact you. And then on the other side, you have a character that knows exactly how he's going to go. Okay? So, in other words, he could go run out in the road right now in front of a car. He's probably not going to go, right? He knows how to go. So he lives his life to the max, right? He's doing all the things because he saw exactly how it happens, right? It's amazing, right? So I almost wake up with that mindset. Like, that's not how I go. I always have a joke. I'm going to choke on my own spit, man. I already know I choke like 3 times a day. When I get old, this thing ain't going to work as well. That's how I'm going to go. I know it. So I'd use that joke all the time. Like, someone would be like, man, this project sucks, man. We're worn out. We're burnt out. We've been burning the mitt. I get it, man, but this ain't how I go.
Yep.
Let's go and, keep moving. And it kind of, that's my ice cream scoop, MG.
No, it made sense. Similar but different, which is one of my pet peeve phrases, is similar but different. But here I go using it. That, and let's be honest. If you, because I lie a lot, so I have to tell you when I'm telling you the truth. So those two are my pet peeves. I don't know why I did that. That's bonus for the listeners. But similar but different. 2 years ago, I was going through some life, and I really fell in love with this book called The Struggle Struggle is the Way, by Ryan Holiday. It's about stoicism, applying stoicism to your life. And one of the things that it talks about is living your life assuming that you're gone tomorrow. And if every decision you make is, tomorrow I'm not going to be here, so today I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to make the best impressions. I'm going to make the best friendships. I'm going to do the best I can. So that way, when I am gone, there's no regrets. And it's this regret thing that I think a lot of us get hung up on. Like when you're like, man, today, I went in and I got in front of that computer and I started that PowerPoint for about 2 hours before I typed anything. I did not make the best of that day. But what happens is when you have this flip and you go, you know what? Tomorrow I'm gone. Is that 2 hours going to make that big of a difference? Is this in the grand scheme of things what I'm going to be remembered for? Is everything that anybody's ever going to say about MG based on, you know what? I remember that one day he missed out on 2 hours of productivity. Like you just have this like flip and you go, okay, I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. I'm going to make the best of every day, what's in front of me right now, and only worry about things I can control. And it just starts making every decision just that much easier to make, because it's not the overwhelming, how's this going to affect me 10 years from now? You're like, nah, I can plan for some things, but I don't have to assume it's going to happen. So it makes a big difference. So I recommend that. And by the way, the title of the book is The Obstacle is the Way. I remember it now.
Okay. Yeah. And I can confirm that. I just Googled it.
Thank you for doing that.
That sounds like a good read. It's interesting you bring that up, MG. I don't even know if all you guys know this, but we talk about life experiences, or you said something 2 years ago. You picked up a book, and it helped you realize that, hey, right now is what's most important. To allude to James' movie reference, I had a life experience 12 years ago, nearly 12 years ago, where I truly almost met my maker. 35 years old, came home mowing the grass, got lightheaded. Long story short, I'm not just a nice guy, but I literally have the biggest heart in Eastern Oklahoma. And since then, I've got a device in my chest that's a pacemaker defibrillator that's got 3 wires to my heart. At 35 years old, facing your own mortality, it's pretty jacked up. And James, like you said, you take a month or however long it takes you, and you can play the pity party and woe is me and all this and that. At that exact time in my life, it was July 31st, 12 years ago, 6 days after my 35th birthday. I had this incident that stopped me in my tracks and said, dude, you've got to make some changes. A week later, my youngest daughter was born. So I come home on a Wednesday. I go in on a Friday. I come home on a Wednesday, and I'm sitting outside on the back deck, and I'm having a moment of spirituality, and this was a moment I figured, it's one of 3 things can happen. It can either destroy me. Well, I've got a daughter and I got another one on the way. That's not really an option. I can let it define me. I'm going to base the rest of my decisions in my life off of this, or I can let it drive me, help me understand, okay, Jason, you were so caught up in, climbing the corporate ladder before. You were so caught up in trying to provide for your family and achieve this and achieve that. Wait a second. Is that what's really fulfilling to you? How are you spending your days now moving forward? So that was a life experience, much like your book. Tomorrow is not promised. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, let me jump in on both you gentlemen, because this is something that I've noticed over the last few years. Unfortunately, in the oil and gas industry, we've lost a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. And when we lose people, we especially if we know them, like, wow, he was such a good blah blah blah, or she was wonderful at this. And at times it's kind of weird where I'm like, okay, how do I want to be remembered? And God willing, I'm in this industry for another 20 years, being that person that is making a difference. And I say to myself, how do I want to be remembered? Because they're not going to care what my shirt looked like, if it was ironed, if, my boots were shined or not shined, but, what's the impact that I'm making? And that's what hits me, not every day, but a lot of times that I think about that when some of the actions, how can I help out MG with the 811 event coming up in August? What can I do to make that better? How can I help Jason with green equipment do something to help whatever the case is? And James, every day, what can I do to help you, James, and vice versa? Anyway, I wanted to share that because I don't want to be morbid, but it's like, that's something that could last a lot longer than we do. And I hope that positive effect rolls on to somebody else that gets it too, that says, in 50 years, when I should pass on, I want to be like James or MG or Jason or Jim. So
what's your legacy? That's it.
Yeah.
I always use the term, that I used it with my son. It's kind of where it started, but that, we do things for our last name around here, like, it ain't about you, right? I mean, it's integrity, and everything is who's on the back of your shirt at the end of the day, right? And that seems to hit for him. When, you're talking about books, MG, a book kind of changed my path completely too. And I want to give a shout out for anybody who hasn't heard the story. I won't go big details, but when I left my past role in life, really, business life, it was really based on a book which is called The Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker. And if you look, he also has a TED Talk. He's super funny. And so if you watch his TED Talk, just look for Happiness Advantage. It's really simple. We'll probably link it up in this. But, his idea was, like what you said, quit the level up mindset that we're instilled with when we're kids of, make the good grades, getting a good, get graduated, get in a good school, go get a good job, get a better job, level up, and then you die, right? I mean, so you can retire and then die. I mean, that's just what's instilled in us when we're little. That's what you're supposed to do. Go level up. And it dumps it on its head and says, quit leveling up, really go after happiness first and you'll get those things, not go get those things and you'll get happiness. And it dumped everything on my head, MG, like you said, I was just go find that job, go make that money and then level up, right? All the way through it. And so, I stepped back and for years I'd wanted to design. I mean, I had designed, but I'd never leaned into it. And I wanted to brand and do the things that really I got excited to do. I found, but barely seldom got to do. Yeah. And when I stepped away and leaned into it, I found there was a whole world there and people that were wowed by, because I was doing what I loved. It was, it was very apparent. And I've continued to get to do that, which is here we are doing something that didn't exist 5 years ago, right? Didn't exist a year ago, that they trust me and wearing shirts and hats and where people just trust you because, again, this isn't how I go, right? Let's go. And so we're wild and we do what we think's right. And that book changed me. So if you don't know that book, grab it. It's so good. Watch the TED Talk. So good. Are there any, let's talk in that realm just a little bit, because this is a constant thing, right? It's a deliberate action is what I always tell people. It's like, it's really easy. You can be one or the other. That's the thing. This book, The Power of Positive Team, another awesome book. It's like, you've got to use the energy either way, negative or positive. You make the choice, right? You have to do this or you get to do this. It's a change in a mindset and everything. And that helped me a ton this year. That statement right there, not that I have to do something, but that I get to do something.
Yeah.
And so for me, I grab books. I gravitate to books and audiobooks and podcasts and stuff. Are there people, are there books, are there podcasts? Is there anything that you guys could share with everyone, with us today, that keeps you moving forward and kind of your journey and motivation and helping others and continuing that lapping out that we talk about?
Mine's a little different, and so I hope I don't go too sideways right off the bat. Maybe I should have waited to go last. So whoever's editing, you're in charge of this. No editing. Here we go.
We go live.
I wasn't excited that I get to scoop ice cream. All right, I'm gonna use that one more time. I wasn't excited that I get to do that. But I am excited that I get to help others stay safe. And like I said earlier, and so all of a sudden there's like this passion for what I do. So there was the past to get me to where I am. I'm grateful for how I've evolved, where I came from and where I am now. And now I get to do my job. I get to share safe excavation and damage prevention and get out there in front of all these people. But instead of there's plenty of podcasts and plenty of books that we can list, but honestly, it's the real life interaction that I get, like the three of you, like when I go to conferences, like when we get those just random emails. Hey, you're the A11 guy, right? I have this question, and there's this. You become sharper when you're around those who are also in the industry. The
iron
still
sharpens iron, right?
There you go. And so that is where my growth has really come from. 2 years ago, when I was a noob in my position and the torch is handed to me, and there was a generational change that happened also in the industry, where we went from, good old boy lunch and learns to, hey, let's get on a computer and talk over the internet. Like, there was all this change, and I embraced it. I looked at that as a challenge, but to learn it, and this is the biggest advice I can give anybody: find people who are smarter than you.
Yes,
they're out there. They're out there.
That's what we're all doing, right? I mean,
right.
MG, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're spot on. That's where I was, though.
I think I agree with you completely. I mean, up until, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, I'd probably read I don't know, 2-3 books in my life. I mean, I joke with my 16-year-old that dad's on the reading level of an orangutan, and she reads books for pleasure. I found that a lot of personal development books are something I can get my head around. I can't paint a picture reading a Harry Potter book. It's just not in my wheelhouse. However, if I pick up a Tim Grover or even a Byron King, something along those lines, or the Mark book that you recommended, MG.
Mark Manson. Yeah.
Mark Manson. Thank you. I can get my head around that, but it's more so around a community.
Can't
it's
say
finding
that name on this show, by the way.
Don't say it.
Yeah.
Editing. We're not going to say it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yourself.
Look up Mark Manson books. You'll be fine.
Books. Anyhow.
How to
So
work.
but the sense of community around that, a couple of years ago, I wasn't on any kind of real social media. I utilized LinkedIn as my business platform. And then a good buddy of ours, who's the communications director for the OGA, he said, Jason, you're really into all this personal development stuff now. I've seen this change in you and this mindset thing. Why don't you get on social media, the book face and all that? I was like, it's too much to manage. I don't want to mess with all that. Maybe I'm a little bit more like Jimmy like that at times. But he said, well, if you get on Instagram, it'll feed the other ones and it sounds efficient. So I don't post a whole lot, but I've been able to find a sense of community in meeting other like-minded people, just in keeping myself accountable. There's certain daily habits I try and keep up with. One is being active. I like to eat. I got to work out as I get older to try and keep from putting the pounds on. That's me. So I work out every day.
Is that what we're supposed to be doing? Was that the game plan?
Well, it's good for me. Whatever works for you works for you. But I put something up in my story, and I put some positive comment, and it's often for me to keep pushing myself to help me, stay on the right track. To help me keep the right mindset, and by the grace of God, whatever. I mean, it's resonated with other people. And there's a community around that. And I mean, not that I have a big following by any stretch of the ruler, but, I had to step away for a period of about a month and a half, and I wasn't on social media at all. And I come back and there's messages from people from Scotland I've never met before in my life. I've got a buddy of mine out of Redding, California, who's I've never met, who's going to fly out and pay a visit over a long weekend, just because we've been able to connect over some like-minded things. Most of the conversations that we all have isn't really about business, right? Whether it's MG or Jimmy, we don't know what we're talking about.
Don't tell our bosses, but no.
Yeah.
It is to help move things forward, but we move things over by supporting each other and helping keep our mindsets right. So
we are our brother's keepers.
Absolutely.
Of lost children.
Uh-huh.
It's a shot.
Blessed is he, right?
Don't make me do it in front of the whole earth, because I will, but I won't.
There you go. But
James, before we bring it home, I'm just going to jump in because I was sitting here listening to the gentleman and trying to, I don't read a lot. Tammy gives me a lot of grief. Why don't you read this? Why don't you read it? And you've been doing the same thing. You buy me books all the time and I don't read them. But I think about, what do I do? But, one thing, and we all know this, and it's not a secret, the industry knows it. I'm celebrating my 10 years sober this July 10th.
Fantastic.
Right. But I keep, that's in my head that goes through every day. Like, think back to, 11 years ago and 12 years ago, and how great the last 10 years have been, and how they're going to be even better and such like that. And those are some of the little inner strengths, and thank God for all the opportunities that he has given me. So anyways, just wanted to share.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, we could probably talk on this for hours. We probably should. We should plan this more often.
We could.
And I wanted to bring this topic up because, I'll be honest, the last couple of weeks for me, I don't feel like I've been even my normal self, on the level maybe that I normally are able to do, right? And so I think in some people's mind that when they hit those spots or or when they're not their best self, that's an easy time to like pull back and backslide a little bit and maybe question everything. Mm-hmm. And so part of this, I'm gonna be honest too. Let's be honest, MG. That this right here, like what all of us have said, was kind of selfish for me too. Like this is my motivation, getting on things like this and hashing out some of this and hearing, and look, I'm going to go grab all these books we're talking about, right? I'm going to go listen to a few more things. I'm going to be more active. These things will tell us I'm going to go back on there and do more of what I'm doing, because I have no doubt people in comments and engagement wise, they know what we're saying. And somebody else out there is probably struggling through some things. And,
absolutely.
And again, Jimmy, our goal with this podcast is really, getting out there and being able to put our hands, on and there's no great way to say that is. Yeah. Being able to touch as many people as possible. Absolutely. With this message, and impact them. And so I believe we're doing it. And you too. I know we are. Our guest today. Yeah. That's why y'all are here joining us in this message. So thank you for everything you do.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to it. We in the pre-show when we were talking, one of the things I talked about is when I'm having those days where I'm just like, man, I just don't feel like this is working. This is failing on me, or whatever the case may be. I'm a data person also. So there's the emotional ride that I can have. And like Jim said, hey, I can embrace a thank you and hold on to that thank you for about a week. I can get that speaker high when I'm done talking and 50 people are like, hey, thanks for explaining that to us and blah, blah, blah. And all those things, but they're fleeting. They leave almost immediately. And so I look at my productivity based on my calendar. So that helps. But then I look at my, what I've done through data. And I go, okay, this is how many people I talked to last month. This is my outreach and all this other stuff. And so looking forward, I can kind of see, all right, if I did this and I knew personally I went through these waves during that month and I still was able to do that, if I just keep those waves at a minimum, or I'm the same dude again, one more month in a row, and I'm still having this effect, I'm doing okay. So I like to see the data, and the data also helps drive my future plans. So I know that's an unusual take, especially in what we do, because everything's so instant. Hey, I told you this. I hope you stay safe, blah, blah, blah. But then like I said, it just flees. It just dissipates. But I have numbers. I may not know who that person was or whatever, 6 months from now, but I can look back on it. And so that's another thing. Find people smarter than you, network with them, get sharper. And then put some data on it. Say, hey, what have I accomplished? What have I done? Because if you can figure out what you've accomplished, that just means, okay, cool, I can do more. I can do better than what I've already done. That was back when I didn't know anything. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited to see what this does when this gets into the internet, and our friends and followers and enemies sees this thing. Hey, throw down your book ideas, throw down your ideas to sharpen us. We are going to be open to it. This will probably be the first podcast I ever bookmarked to go check on weekly for like the next year, just to see what's going on with our engagement.
So you're that one person.
Yeah. Yes.
We'll send you a box. Yeah. I was Jason. No,
I'll be candid. I'm not a data person. I'm not. I am not. I'm not the fine details kind of guy. That's just not me. I'm the opposite. I agree with you. Find people that are smarter than you. And I can appreciate the data. Look back at what you've accomplished and help remind yourself of what you're capable of. But for me, when my mindset's off, when I'm feeling derailed, I turn back to my brothers, my community. That's why I reach out to Jimmy. Hey man, I'm struggling.
Yep.
So I encourage you, if you are, reach out. Find Jimmy. Someone that you're close to that understands it.
Yeah, reach out to Jim. We'll put his number at the end. No, I was going to make one statement, guys, and I'm going to put on my HR hat real quick, okay? And Jimmy knows exactly what I'm about to say. For anybody who is struggling, it's about motivation, but don't suffer in silence. As Jason said, and we've all said, reach out. You can reach out to us, but also know that there's resources. Go out there, talk to somebody. There's a lot of resources out there these days, and I'd be more than happy to hook anybody up. I've got great, that's my job now.
Yeah.
Yes. We've got to be comfortable to talk about mental health, and we've went through a hell of a year this past year.
Yes.
And you've got to give yourself enough grace to get there.
Yep.
And then, to act on it. So I hope everybody that needs to hear that hears that.
Absolutely.
And, there isn't a stigma with, with our industry and others. So, please reach out. Don't suffer.
It's reiterating, we all have down times. We all do. We all struggle with things. We all do.
We're human,
right? Make a time out. Reach out to someone or look at the data or read the book or whatever it is that's going to help you get recentered and get back on the rails and do what you've got to do, no matter what you're into.
Man,
so.
Jason, we have a joke internally at Energy World Net. You want to know what it is? If I ever get fired, I want Jason Crowe to tell me.
Well, I would be blessed to share my tone and voice. Unfortunately, I'd hate to let anybody go. You're such a great organization, but
thank you.
Repo a car, or what was it? If I had to repo your car,
anything,
you want to be,
man.
Yeah,
whatever. There's any bad news, I need Jason on the line.
There you go. So,
exactly.
MG, Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Grateful for you, brothers. Grateful.
And again, as everybody can pretty much see, this was a friendship thing, and it's just it's growing. If you go to gas associations or safety associations, you'll see more and more topics on these, as opposed to 5 years ago, just about products. We're now talking about, soft skills, and I'll just
what an amazing time, right? I mean,
it's wonderful.
Everybody talks about all the technology stuff going on, but man, have you ever seen human be more important than right now?
Yep. And I'll volunteer each and every one of us, if the audience members have connected some way with any of us. Probably the easiest way is if you're on LinkedIn now, or go to the LinkedIn platform. That's probably the easiest way to get our personal information to connect with us. We'd be happy to have a discussion. Otherwise, we really appreciate your time. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. We know it was quite a journey to get to this taping today, recording, or whatever we call it these days. But it's almost in the can, as I like to say.
That works.
Anyways, thank you, audience, for joining us. It's been great. As I always say every time, everybody, please have a great week and stay safe. Until next time, on Coffee with Jim and James, we'll see you soon. Take care. Thanks.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, guys.